Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Privilege Stacking series. And today I want to talk about why most unambiguous black women do not have thin privilege. African American women have some of the highest rates of obesity. 82% of African American women are overweight, compared to 63% of white women and 77% of Hispanic women. Something interesting, though, that I talked about in another video is about how the majority of women in America are overweight anyway, just so you know. So if you are at a healthy weight, you're probably in the top 10% of women, top 25% of women. So don't ever let a man tell you that you're like a 5 or an adjustable 6. If you are thin and you are not overweight, it's impossible for you to be considered average, because your body would literally be considered above average in comparison to the majority of Americans who are overweight. Okay, so that's number one. But African American women do have the highest obesity rates. And have you ever wondered to yourself why a lot of black women make fun of you for being skinny? One of my theories is that, number one, it's straight up jealousy. It's just plain old fashioned jealousy, because overweight women know that they are discriminated against for being big. And I can say this as somebody who was thick at one point. This was during COVID. I was thick for about 6 months. And I can tell you that when I was thick, I definitely spent a lot of time trying to cover up my problem areas. So that's one of the psychological issues that a lot of bigger women have, is like when it comes to their wardrobe, they're spending a lot of their time trying to cover up their stomach, cover up their thighs, making sure they're not showing the cellulite or not showing the stretch marks. So this is not supposed to be a fat phobic type of community, but this community does promote privilege stacking and social climbing. And so we don't live in a utopian society. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like people don't judge you for being fat. But the reason that a lot of black women don't want you to lose weight is because misery loves company. They don't want to feel like they are alone at the bottom by themselves. So a lot of women who are deeply entrenched in the black community suffer from hierarchy thinking. The black community, in my opinion, has really horrible hierarchy thinking. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is go on to any of the black female empowerment YouTube channels, go to the most popular ones, and you will be able to point out their hierarchy thinking. The way to spot hierarchy thinking is that they will talk a lot about competition. Okay, they're constantly in a state of competition with other women. They're competing with skinny women. They're competing with younger women. They're competing with white women. They're always talking about who's winning this competition. Another sign of hierarchy thinking is they think men are the prize. So this is why they will say, oh, mixed women, you can't compete with white women. Compete for what? What is the prize that we are competing for? They'll say like, oh, Afro-Latinas, they can't compete with non-black Latinas. Compete for what? The male gaze? Okay, so you view the male gaze as a prize and you have hierarchy thinking. So that's reason number one why a lot of fat black women don't want you to lose weight. It's because they have hierarchy thinking, and they think that by you losing weight, that you're going to be higher up than them on a social hierarchy. So you guys know that this channel does not promote hierarchy thinking, but I do believe that society as a whole does give certain people privileges. Okay, so number two reason why black women don't want you to be at a healthy weight, it's because by losing the excess weight, you are getting rid of micro insecurities. You can't tell me that a woman who has a perfect body, perfect stomach, perfect boobs, perfect butt, perfect arms, you can't tell me that she has no confidence in her body whatsoever. No, that's not the norm. The average woman who has a healthy body, generally speaking, she does not have the same level of insecurities about her body as someone who has ruined their body. So a lot of jealous women from the black community, they don't want you to do anything that's going to make you more confident. Because I've noticed another thing that happens in the black community, like if you have any sort of confidence and beauty at the same time, you are automatically considered a threat. So if you think you're cute already, and now on top of that, now you've got a flat stomach too, oh no, that's just too triggering. And so a lot of black women, they want to keep you down. They want to be able to use your body as a humbling tactic against you. So this is why sometimes when you're losing weight, your body looks beautiful. Like when you go to the cookout, they'll start trying to feed you extra food. They'll say you need to eat some cornbread. They'll say that you have no ass. And it's so hilarious. They actually expose themselves, because it's like, sis, are you that ugly to where you think that the prettiest quality about your body is your ass? So you're telling me that literal butt cheeks look better than your face? Okay, I'm done being a troll. But seriously, like a lot of women They give in heavily to the black male gaze. And a lot of women who feel like they don't have a pretty face, there are women who don't like their faces, they don't like their skin tone, they don't like their hair texture. And so the only thing they feel that they do have is a giant ass for men to lust over. And so this is why sometimes bigger women will actually make fun of you when you have like a little booty. And by the way, a girl can still be skinny and like have a butt. Like that's totally normal. Like I know with my body shape, I have like an hourglass or Coke bottle type of shape. So no matter how skinny I get, I'm still going to have like curves, if that makes sense. But a lot of big women, they don't understand this. So these are the women who they don't feel like their face is pretty. They don't think their skin or their hair is pretty. So they only think that the thing that makes them sexually desirable is the fact that they have a giant ass. And it's so funny because they're actually promoting being fetishized. So they will make fun of you, and then they will say that men only choose you because they're fetishizing you. Meanwhile, that big ass woman, she likes being fetishized for her ass size. So do you see the hypocrisy? So sometimes big women, they will actually use their butt and their boobs as a way to try to flex on skinny women. And it's just laughable, but they really will try to make it like, oh, men like me more because I have more meat on my bones. I have more ass for him to grab. So do you see how male-centered that is? Oh, well, men like me better than you because I literally have bigger sexualized parts of my body. Do you hear how male-centered that sounds? Do you hear how desperate that sounds? Oh, well, I have bigger boobs than you. I have a bigger butt than you, so men must like me more because, they have more body to play with. Basically, they're saying that I can pleasure a man with my body more than you can because I literally have more weight on my bones to pleasure him with. So that's incredibly male-centered. That's extremely male-centered. But another reason why some black women will sabotage your weight loss is actually due to their cultural background. If you look at the black community historically, look at the foods that black people eat on the holidays and stuff. Usually it's like soul food, it's fried food. It's definitely not the healthiest food in the world. Okay, African Americans as a culture, like there's not a culture of eating vegan, if that makes sense. There's not a culture of eating salads. I was actually thinking about this the other day. When I was growing up, all of my friends, who they all happen to be white because I grew up in like a white neighborhood, they would always eat salads for lunch. The majority of them, they would eat salad. They would bring their lunch from home, and it would be a homemade salad. But if I were to compare that to like maybe my family members or just what I saw people eating at like HBCUs and stuff, generally speaking, they were not choosing a salad as their first choice. A salad would be something to where it's like, okay, you only eat that when you have to go on a diet and lose weight. That's something, it's almost like a punishment in the black community to eat salad. That's a punishment, is to not be able to eat fried chicken. It's a punishment to eat nasty food. In fact, I've heard some black people, they will say, that's white people food. I don't eat that. That has no seasoning. I don't eat white people food. That's mayonnaise. So they'll say like they don't want to eat tuna, which is high in protein. They'll be like, oh no, that's mayonnaise. That's white people food. So for some women, their actual cultural background and their cultural biases hold them back from trying any new foods. And then they will say things like, oh, healthy food is nasty. It's like, there are so many different options for healthy food. It doesn't have to just be. Did you know that there's actually a 300-calorie pizza that you can make? There's this one girl that I follow on YouTube. I'll try to find her channel, but it's like you can literally make anything and turn it into a healthier version. So it's not like the only option is salad, but I feel like for a lot of monocultural black women who were only raised around this traditional kind of Southern African American culture, they're only familiar with fried foods, or they're only familiar with kind of soul food or Southern food or some variation of highly seasoned, highly greasy foods. So their taste buds and their palate and their gut is used to eating the fried chicken. They're used to having butter and everything. Once I went to the South, I remember like I immediately gained, like basically that contributed to me gaining weight. It's because I noticed that all of their foods had butter in them. So I had never eaten that much butter in my life. I mean, I ate butter as a kid, but not that much. Like it wasn't like everything is cooked in butter. It wasn't like, buttermilk waffles, butter pecan ice cream, just everything has butter in it. But I've noticed that there are some ingredients in African American foods traditionally, that it just tends to be unhealthy. So I'm not saying that you can't eat those things. You can, you just have to eat it in moderation. You can taste those things. You can take a bite of the fried chicken. But in the black culture, there are some women who are so monocultural and they're so pro-black. They are such black supremacists that they even believe that the black diet is the healthiest diet. I feel like it's really a form of black supremacy. Oh, soul food is the best food. That's the only option. Everything else is just nasty in comparison. So they don't want to give credit to any other types of food. By the way, salad, white people don't own salads. Okay? Eating spinach and stuff like that, that comes from the earth. There is no one culture or ethnicity who has a monopoly on spinach. So I think that the black people who have this black supremacist mindset, they're actually very ignorant, because it's like, you can engage in other cultures. You're not betraying your blackness by eating spinach. You're not betraying your blackness by eating a salad. But sometimes they will try to sabotage you as a skinny woman, and then they will say things like you're trying to be white. You guys saw my most recent videos where there was a woman who literally was calling people fascists for wanting to be skinny. So she was literally equating being skinny to white supremacy, and she even said it in her TikTok video. So for some women, they are such black supremacists that anything that doesn't center black culture, anything that doesn't center the black diet, the most popular black body types or whatever, it automatically is anti-black to them. Another reason why some black women tend to stay fat is because they feel more connected to their own culture. Big Mama was fat. Big Mama was fat. Their aunties and uncles, they were all fat. Their sisters were fat. Their mom was fat. So everybody in the family was fat. And one of the ways that they grew up connecting with their family was by eating a lot of food. They would sit around and eat every Sunday. They would have the Sunday dinners. So it's literally a part of how they bond with people. Food is a source of comfort for them. They have a lot of memories. They have like positive memories tied to food. So that's not a bad thing to have positive memories. But I feel like sometimes they're willing to sabotage their own fitness goals so they can fit in with their family members. So sometimes it's actually emotional codependency that keeps black women fat. It's because they're afraid of what their mom is going to say. They're afraid of what Big Mama and them are going to say. They're afraid of what the cousins are going to say at the cookout. They're going to talk shit about them. Actually, I've actually been around some black family members where they will actually talk shit about cousins. Maybe that person used to be obese and then they lost weight. Like, I've actually heard some of my family members, they will say stuff like, oh, well, her face looks too skinny now, or like she's too skinny. And she won't even be that skinny. She'll literally be like a size 12, or she'll be like a size 10. So yeah, it's thin, but it's not like she looks like a crackhead or something. But sometimes in the black culture, I've noticed that your own black family members, they're used to seeing you a certain way. So maybe they always knew you as Big Keisha. They always knew you as Big TT. You're Big Kiki. Oh, that's Tay Tay, the big girl. So they always knew you as being big. So then when you try to step outside of that old identity and you no longer identify with obesity, then suddenly they want to remind you of who you used to be, or they want to discourage you, or they will say things like, oh, you'll gain the weight back. Oh, wait till you get a man, you'll gain the weight back. Or they'll say, wait till the holidays, you gonna gain the weight back. So they have all this shit to talk, and it's almost like this crabs in a barrel culture, because they don't want to be left alone. Misery loves company, so they don't want to be the only big girl at the church. They don't want to be the only big girl at the club or at the bar. So sometimes women actually feel left out. Like, if I were obese and all of my friends looked like models, all their bodies were like a model, I would feel left out. So, I mean, that's a pretty normal reaction that a lot of black women are going to have when you start to lose weight and then everybody else around you is fat. Well, yeah, they're going to feel left out, because in the black female culture, they're very male-centered. And so they know that a lot of men will give you attention for your skinny body, especially if she is a swirler or a divester. We know that a lot of non-black men, just in general, like women who are fit. I mean, I believe that there are a lot of black guys who like fit women as well, but I do feel like black guys are more accepting of women who are like thicker, because even for me, like when I was fat, I consider a size 12 to be fat for me personally, just because before that I was always very small, like maybe a size 0 to a size 4 at the biggest. So when I was like thick, the only guys that hit on me were mainly black men and Hispanic men. All the other attention that I had been getting my whole life started to go away. So I do feel like black guys do tend to be more accepting towards a little bit thicker women. I'm talking about maybe size 10 to 14. A lot of black men are more accepting. Some Hispanic men are more accepting. But another thing I noticed too, though, was that when I was thicker, I would also be hit on by bigger men. They would be more like the football player types of men, like kind of that body type, as opposed to being thin. It would be kind of every type of man. He might be a football player type, or he might be the basketball player type, kind of more lean and tall and buff. So that's another reason why some black women don't want you to lose weight, because there is a correlation in my personal experience between your body type and the body type of a man you attract. So, like I said, a lot of them are black male centered or white male centered, and a lot of big girls actually fantasize about getting with a man who is in shape. So it doesn't mean that he has to be the most in shape man in the world. But generally speaking, whenever I talk to women who are obese or thick, and then I start asking her, hey, what's your dream guy? You know, who's your celebrity crush? They will start naming football players who are literally in shape. So they might be a little bit padded, but they're still definitely in shape. They definitely have like muscle tone or whatever. So a lot of big women, they still fantasize about getting with men who are fit. And so they know that you, as a woman who is fit, you're more likely to attract a man who's fit because number one, you guys would have more things in common. You know, if you're fit and he's fit, you guys can go running together. You can go biking together. You can go hiking together. I noticed that like, for me personally, comparing when I was thicker to being thinner, like when I started to get thinner, because I was only thick for maybe like a few months, you know, I immediately lost the weight back off because I was like, oh my God, no. But I noticed once I lost the weight back off, I would be in the produce section at Whole Foods and like maybe a guy would walk up to me or something and he would also be in shape and then he would start asking questions like, oh, you know, what do you think of this trail mix or what do you think of this salad? So there's a different type of attention that women get when they're at a healthy weight versus when they are obese. I feel like a lot of women who are very big are used to being fetishized because there are a lot of people who actually fetishize women who are big. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is just look at the porn industry. You know, a lot of times when they are showing big women, you know, they have a specific way that they market big women, is what I'm trying to say. If you watch my Decentering Men content, you guys know that my psychological theory on men is that their beauty standards and sexual standards are based on Hollywood and porn, okay? So however big women are represented in Hollywood and porn, whatever their collective image is in those two areas, and on social media as well, that's going to be kind of the general subconscious way that men are going to react to you. Because I also believe that a lot of men are sheep and followers and that they don't think critically. And so a lot of women who are big, they actually get dehumanized. And there are studies that back this up, by the way. A lot of big women, they get dehumanized in the workplace. You know, they get dehumanized in the dating market. I've actually heard some horrible stories about women feeling completely invisible because they're big. And if you don't believe me, please go and check out a lot of the black empowerment content creators. A lot of those content creators are plus size. They're big. They're fat. Okay? A lot of them can tell, just go listen to their experiences. Listen to the exotical space and the women over here, and then compare our experiences with the experiences of the women who have been big for their whole lives. And they will tell you that a lot of them feel invisible. So that's another reason why some big women want to sabotage you for losing weight. It's because they know that you having a nice body, it'll make you more visible. Beauty is a form of social power, and also visibility does increase your level of beauty. It really does. This is how beauty trends are started. They're started based on visibility. So like if you are losing weight and you know your body looks like a Fashion Nova model, or you know you look like an IG model or something, or you look like a runway model, you know, if you look like Naomi Campbell or something, you can't convince me that you're not going to get any attention or that people aren't going to make positive comments about your body. That's another thing. A lot of women who are fit, they get a lot more micro validation about their body. And I can tell you this from experience. Like the more in shape I get, and then especially if I wear a belly shirt, when I go out to the grocery store or like when I go to the spa or something, people will actually comment on my actual body and they will say, I want your stomach or I want your legs. A lot of obese women, they don't have people saying that. They don't have people telling them in the grocery store, I wish I had your stomach. I wish my stomach was the size of a watermelon. Oh, I wish that I was the size of a refrigerator. I wish I was built like a linebacker. No, they don't have people telling them that. And if they say that to you, they are lying. Another reason why black women will sometimes sabotage your weight loss is actually because of the neighborhoods that they grew up in. Statistically speaking, a lot of black women are more likely to have grown up in impoverished neighborhoods and food deserts. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. If you're not from the United States, a food desert is basically like within a certain radius, there are no grocery stores or there are no grocery stores with healthy options. So for example, if you look at where they create Whole Foods stores and where they put Trader Joe's, they always put it in the nice neighborhood because there literally is a correlation between people who live in food deserts and their health outcomes. Like, have you ever lived in a neighborhood where all they have is like a bunch of McDonald's and Popeyes and like, basically unhealthy stuff, like this cheap fast food? A lot of black women have actually grown up in environments where they grew up on fast food. And don't even get me started on child development and how, children who eat a lot of fast food and they lack protein in their diet, it actually affects their brain, it affects their outcomes in school. I mean, there are so many different types of intersectionality when it comes to this, but for a lot of black women, they did grow up in a food desert. And so they think that their life is normal. They think it's normal to eat Popeyes every day. They think it's normal to eat Wendy's and Burger King and Taco Bell every single day. Black people as a whole, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the African American community is like we're the biggest consumers, or like black people in general are the biggest consumers. So if you live in a food desert, and then you go on your Instagram and all you see is like mukbangs, and you see people like doing reviews of like Popeyes and I don't know, hot Cheetos or whatever. There's a reason why they have stereotypes about people eating hot Cheetos for breakfast in the hood. It's because a lot of people who are from the hood, they are literally living in a food desert. So the closest place for them to get groceries is a gas station. It's the convenience store. It's the liquor store. So a lot of women who try to sabotage you, these are women who grew up eating the hot Cheetos for breakfast. They grew up eating Twinkies and donuts and, 7-Eleven. And don't get me wrong, I love 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven is my shit, okay? On July 11th, I always go to get the free Slurpee, but a lot of these women, they grew up eating this stuff, and so they actually have like this psychological, it's almost like the gas station food has sentimental value to them. Like they have an emotional connection in some cases with the convenience store. And I know this because, if you date black men, or if you have black family members, or if you go back to your hometown, they will actually tell you, "Oh, hey, let's be nostalgic." A lot of black people tie nostalgia to unhealthy foods. So I know this myself. I know this because with my dad, he would take me to get like all the little Hostess, like all the little pies and like ding dongs and stuff. My dad actually used to take me to get those things. He used to take me to like the little bakeries or the places where you can get the little apple pies and stuff. So even I have a nostalgic, positive relationship with some of these unhealthy foods. And that's the case for a lot of people in the black community. Maybe they grew up to where in their Baptist church, all the little kids in Sunday school, maybe they all got the Hostess ding dongs, or maybe they all ate like Twinkies and stuff, or maybe they ate hot Cheetos. Maybe their uncles used to bring them back hot Cheetos from the gas station. I know that I have cousins and stuff, and I used to get excited when my older cousins would bring back some hot Cheetos or like just random stuff from the gas station. So it's almost like this nostalgic connection that African Americans have to these unhealthy foods. And there's nothing wrong with having positive memories. That's a good thing that you have positive memories. But I do feel like in a lot of black households, they're not taught as much about moderation. And this as people who are black adjacent on this channel, this because if you go to the cookout and look at the serving sizes that they put on the plate, or, if you look at some of your own family members, they don't have moderation. And I mean, this is true for a lot of Americans in general, but if you look at like how much food they put on your plate, in fact, black people will get mad if they go to a restaurant and they have small serving sizes. I've literally seen black people get pissed off because restaurants give them a small serving size, and they will literally say that they got ripped off because they didn't get 3 servings of mac and cheese instead of just 1. And so a lot of this stuff, these are actually, I call them cultural disadvantages in terms of weight loss. I believe that every ethnic group has different advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so one of the disadvantages in the African American culture is obviously, the food culture, and kind of how a lot of black families, like if they're monoracially black, a lot of them were raised in single parent households, first of all. So their mother is in survival mode. She is not sitting there teaching them how to weigh out their food in grams, or like, oh, you should eat salad because it's really good for your hair and it's good for your skin. No, the average black mother is not sitting around teaching their child about nutrition facts or how to read the labels on the back of the items at the grocery store. They're not teaching them that because statistically speaking, a lot of black families are raised just in this sense of survival mode. And so I think that's another part of why a lot of black women are overweight. It's because they have a scarcity mindset. Some black people grew up to where it's like you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Especially if you look at Gen X black people, like people who are Gen X and their parents were boomers or their parents were alive during the time when women couldn't even have bank accounts and stuff. Think about how much struggle you would be going through as a single mother who couldn't even get loans or get access to bank accounts. Maybe she had to go cash her check at one of those check cashing places, or like she had all these different errands to run. She has to go to the laundromat. So she's not over here teaching her daughter about moderation. So in a lot of cases, these children were raised on gas station food. And so some people even associate it with you being stuck up by wanting to eat some salad, or you want to eat a tomato salad, you want to have a caprese, you want a caprese salad, you want like all these different things. You'd rather have mozzarella versus like the American cheese. I think it's called American cheese, right? Like the yellow squares. Oh my God, that is so disgusting to me. But I haven't had that since I was a kid. It's like the yellow square cheese that's in a package. I think that's American cheese. But there are some black people who will literally say you are being stuck up because you're trying to make better choices. In fact, I've actually heard of a lot of black parents. They will call their children picky. Like, oh, he's picky because basically he doesn't want to eat all this bullshit that I'm trying to feed him. And it's like, well, sis, maybe his body is actually rejecting all that processed shit you're trying to feed him. Maybe he doesn't want to eat Dino mac and cheese every day. Maybe he doesn't want to eat Dino nuggets every day. Maybe his body wants some protein. So some people, they literally view it as you're being stuck up or you're being picky. Have you ever noticed that in black culture, there's this obsession with like, you need to prove that you're like strong. So they'll tell you if you don't want to eat certain foods, you're being too picky, you're being too sensitive. So it's like, you're not allowed to be selective. Being picky, another word for picky just means that you're being selective. You're an exclusive type of person. You hold yourself in high esteem. So that is literally talked down upon in the black community because they view it as you think you're better, or they will say stuff like, you didn't pay for that food, so like you better eat whatever I'm cooking. So it's almost like this culture of child abuse in a lot of black families. And a lot of people, they don't talk about this in the black community, and they should. But a lot of children were actually abused. They got whoopings. They got their asses beat because they didn't eat the fucked up food that their mom tried to give them. They got whoopings because they wouldn't eat the Burger King. They got whoopings because they didn't eat the McDonald's fries. So a lot of black women, in my opinion, some of them are overweight due to actual trauma. So they got their asses beat, and they never realized that they took on this habit of eating a lot of food because back in the day, their mom used to give them a whooping, like if they didn't eat exactly what she made. So it's like a form of control. I've noticed a lot of people in the black community in particular, there is almost this sense of wanting to control something. And I feel like it's because a lot of black people have felt downtrodden. So then the only way that they feel relevant is by controlling their children. I've been around a lot of different like toxic black mothers or toxic black fathers or whatever. So they feel like, when they go out into their workplace, they're a loser. They're at the bottom. When it comes to beauty standards that they have internalized, they're at the bottom. When it comes to the dating market, they feel like they're at the bottom. But when they're in their house with their kid, that's the one place where she gets to be the HBIC. That's the one place where he gets to be the king of the castle. And so a lot of these black parents will actually try to be controlling and domineering over their children, and they will actually force feed their children. They will literally have their children sit at the table for hours. Like, if you don't eat this shit, then you're just going to sit here all night. Or like, if you don't eat this burger or if you don't eat this fried chicken that I made, you're ungrateful. So that's another thing. In the black community, sometimes people will use guilt against you. And then they will literally use Africa. They'll be like, oh, there are a lot of starving kids in Africa, so like you better not waste your food. And it's like, okay, this child stuffing his face with a whole bunch of fried chicken and collard greens, well, that's actually not that bad. Collard greens actually are high in protein. But it's like this child stuffing their face with all of this food, that's not going to make the starving kids in Africa suddenly have food. So in the black community, sometimes they actually try to guilt people into eating more. They will guilt you into overeating, and then they will try to use Africa, and then as a black person, then you're like, oh shit, well, I don't want to go against Africa, so, might as well just eat 5,000 calories. And it's like, that doesn't even make sense. Since when does eating 5,000 calories help people in Africa? But another reason that a lot of black women are obese is due to psychosocial stress. So that actually popped up when I looked it up. And what it is unfavorable perceptions of neighborhood aesthetics and resources. It's just like if people perceive you in a negative way, if they perceive your race in a negative way, basically, if you come from a bad collective image, you got a bad reputation with your ethnic group, there's a bad reputation with your skin tone group, there's a bad reputation with your hair texture, there's a bad reputation with the neighborhood you're from, there's a bad reputation with your actual family members, there's a bad reputation with your baby daddy or your sisters or your brothers. A lot of Black women have so many traumas. They've got colorism, texturism, featureism, racism, misogynoir, all of these different traumas that they're going through on a daily basis, or these traumas that they've been through since childhood. They don't have time. Their diet, that's the last thing they're thinking about. And a lot of Black women will use food as comfort, and they don't realize that that's what they're doing. So they'll use food as comfort. They will use food to pass the time. They will use food to bond with their family members on Thanksgiving or Christmas. And it's not bad to use food to bond with people, but if you're emotionally codependent and you're constantly trying to bond with people, then that's where it becomes bad. A lot of Black women, they will use food as a way to numb their emotions. So if you're going through all these traumas of colorism, texturism, featureism, the boy doesn't like you in high school, whatever, you didn't get asked to prom, or you're going through traumas in college, you're depressed in college, or you didn't get to go to college, or maybe you're pregnant, the baby daddy abandoned you, all these different traumas that you hear about in the Black community. For some women, the way that they deal with their trauma is by eating food to numb themselves. And so, they will overeat on all these different fast food meals, or they will actually distract themselves by trying to keep up. So I've actually met a lot of big girls. Pretty much every big girl I know, she will have so many apps on her phone. She will have the Chick-fil-A app, the McDonald's app, the Wendy's app. And I'm like, how did you even know about all these apps? I didn't even know that there was an app for all of these different fast food places and that you could get like free fries. So I've actually been around some big women where they make it their hobby to try to find free fast food. And I mean, that's actually not a bad hobby. Like I said, you can do it in moderation. But for a lot of big women that I've been around, it's almost like a form of escapism. Food is their form of escapism. Going to Sonic and getting a free slushie, that's their form of being able to escape from their bad life that they're living. So I've noticed a lot of women, they'll use food as their escape. They'll use food as their hobby, like cooking. So I met one big girl not that long ago. She is a Southern Black girl, and she talked about how she would spend hours cooking, and she was very big. And so, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having hobbies. You can have a hobby of cooking, but I have noticed sometimes in the Black community, if they're big, they will actually use cooking and food and like butter and cream and sugar and all this stuff as a way to binge and kind of numb their emotions, or they'll use it as a distraction. Like I can't think about how much I hate my life because I'm eating these Doritos right now. I'm eating hot Cheetos for breakfast. And also, I think that the opposite is true as well. I think that some Black women, they overeat so they can feel something, because I've actually met a lot of people, how they say like you eat hot Cheetos for breakfast? Well, sometimes people are high sensation seekers. That's actually a psychological term, being a high sensation seeker. So there are some fat women where they purposely will eat something super spicy. They'll get hot Cheetos and then they'll cover it in tahini, or they'll cover it in the red hot sauce, or they'll drench everything in red hot. They'll eat so much red hot to the point where it hurts their stomach. And so for some Black women who are high sensation seekers, they actually will binge on spicy foods. They'll binge on salty foods. They'll binge on fried, greasy foods. They will eat an entire Chipotle bowl in 7 bites. Like I saw that video with that girl where she ate the whole thing in 7 bites. That's a high sensation seeker. You're trying to get the sensation of getting this big giant spoon and like feeling all this food going down your throat all at one time, and like feeling your stomach fill up within seconds. That's a high sensation seeker. That person, they're trying to feel something. So maybe in their everyday life, they're emotionally numb because they've been through so many traumas. Maybe they don't want to live. Maybe they literally want to unalive themselves. And so they feel numb all the time. But then when they can finally binge on sugar and eat an entire cake in one day, that's their sensation that they get. It finally makes them feel again. They're getting that stimulation from the sugar. So it's basically a food addiction or like sugar addiction. Some people, they eat a lot of salt, or they have diabetes and stuff. They have high cholesterol. So whatever type of food addiction it is, it's still something that's making her big. So that's why a lot of Black women become big. And this is also why some of them will try to sabotage you. It's because they are in the midst of their food addiction. You know, she's addicted to sugar, she's addicted to salt, she's addicted to grease. Her whole stomach is filled with a pot of chicken grease. And so she's not thinking in the same way that you're thinking. I do believe in the gut brain connection. You know how, like, if you have parasites in your gut and stuff, I do believe that those parasites and worms that are in your stomach, it really does affect people's cravings. And so I do think that for some women, their brain chemistry is off. When I ate a Cinnabon, I went to Cinnabon recently, like a couple of months ago. I ate the entire Cinnabon. Like, you know, the big Cinnabon? Like, yes, I ate the entire Cinnabon and I had extra frosting with it. Did you know I immediately was in a bad mood? I immediately started getting hot and itchy. Basically, my body was like rejecting it. My body was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you eating like this? And so the foods that you eat, it really can affect your body in a bad way. A lot of people have adult acne because of their diet and they don't even know it. You know, sometimes people have like really bad acne because they're actually allergic to certain things or their body is rejecting certain things. Acne is when your body is literally trying to get rid of toxins. Your body is so filled with toxins to the point where your body is trying to excrete those toxins out through your skin. Your skin is an organ, by the way. So a lot of women, they've got like bad skin. It's not just on your face. It could also be on your body and stuff. But a lot of women, they literally have so many toxins to where their skin is literally getting inflamed or they have like fatty liver and all that. I know that for me, if I binge on sugar, I am more likely to get a small breakout. You know, I will get a very small breakout, maybe between my eyebrows or something, because your digestive system is overwhelmed. So that's another reason that a lot of Black women are fat. It's because they're overwhelmed socially. And so all they know is overwhelmed. They think that being overwhelmed is normal. And so a lot of women, they will overwhelm their digestive systems. They will overwhelm themselves with food. Another reason why some Black women don't want you to be skinny is because you being obese, it makes her feel socially safe. It makes her feel better to know that you're the one with your stomach hanging out. You're the one with 5 chins. You're the one that's got, you know, all of these mental health issues and physical issues. You're the one that has to go around Walmart in that electric chair and she still gets to walk. So for some women, they actually could be big, but they like it when you're bigger than them. They like that they're still not the biggest. Like I said, I've had family members who are literally, they will be big themselves, but then they will talk shit about women who are bigger than them. So for some women, they don't want you to lose weight because they don't want you to be smaller than them. They don't want to have to acknowledge that your stomach is flatter than theirs. They don't want to have to acknowledge that, you know, your thighs don't rub together. You're not burning a hole in your leggings just by walking. You're not starting a fire with your thighs just by walking. Something else that happens too is that when you start to go after your goals, this could be body goals, it could really be any type of goals, but people get intimidated and they get triggered seeing you go after your goals. And so if you go after your body goals and you lose 100 pounds or you like, you know, you just drop 5 dress sizes, you're going to make her start to question her own decisions. Because I know that this is true. Like for me, if I'm eating healthy and everybody else is eating a whole bunch of bullshit, people actually start questioning their own diet choices when they see yours. You know, so if she's sitting there eating 5 pounds of Popeye's chicken and then you're sitting there with a salad, she's going to subconsciously start questioning her food choices. Like, oh shit, maybe I should like have something else. I've had this happen to me so many times where women at work who were fat, they would literally start copying my diet. One time this actually happened with this Black girl. I was standing in line and I overheard her talking behind me. She was talking about how she was going to get like this big sandwich that they had at the cafe. She was talking to another coworker. And then when she saw me go up, I was ahead of her in the line. When she saw me order a soup, I ordered the vegetable soup, the small one. It was like about a cup or 16 ounces. I was like, yeah, can I just get the soup? And then the person at the counter was like, oh, wow, that's very healthy. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then I just ordered my soup. Then suddenly I noticed that the woman behind me changed her order so that she could have the soup. She was like, oh, can I get the soup as well? And so sometimes when women see you making healthy choices, one of 2 things can happen. Either you will inspire them or you will trigger them. And, you know, then they have to deal with their own internalized insecurities. Because then, you know, if you start losing weight and now your friend is the fat friend, she's going to start questioning herself. She's going to start thinking to herself, oh shit, you know, my friend, she lost weight over the last 6 months. Like, why didn't I lose weight? And I've actually seen some Black women get jealous and they will actually call out other women for having surgery. They'll be like, oh, well, she had VSG surgery. Oh, well, she was on Weight Watchers. Oh, well, she was on Ozempic. Whether it was via surgery or via running up a mountain, I feel like some black women, they have this monolith mindset about what it takes to be skinny. So they're very ignorant. They're ignorant about weight loss. They think that weight loss has to be something super hard. It's like you don't have to run a marathon in order to lose 5 pounds. You can control your diet. You can try to do a walk every day. Like there are so many different strategies that women use to lose weight. But for those women who are very ignorant and they're not knowledgeable about weight loss, basically they're a dumbass in terms of weight loss, or they're dumb in terms of nutrition. They think that like there's only one way to lose weight. So if you lose weight in a way that they disagree with, they will actually call it out. And they'll be like, oh, well, you're only skinny because you got this surgery. Oh, well, you're only skinny because you paid to do Weight Watchers. You're only skinny because you paid a whole bunch of money to go to the gym, or like you had to sweat. They'll try to make it like it's invalidating your weight loss because of how hard it was for you to get that. And then they'll be like, oh, well, I can't do that. I'm not paying that kind of money. It's not that serious. And then they'll try to minimize your success. They want to minimize the fact that you achieved your body goals. Or they want to try to make it like somebody else's body is better than yours. That's another strategy they'll try to use. They will compare you to someone who's even skinnier than you. Maybe you lost 50 pounds, you lost 100 pounds, and then they'll still try to be like, oh, well, you're still not as skinny as so-and-so. You're still not as skinny as your sister. You're still not as skinny as this other person. And it's like, bitch, you're not as skinny as me. So now what? Since you want to put us all on a hierarchy, where does that place you, bitch? But another thing that happens too is that if you eat less, like let's say you had a friend where you guys went out to eat to all the soul food spots every week or something, and then you suddenly are watching your calories, you eating less, that's going to make her feel self-conscious. She's going to be like, oh shit, she only had 2 bites of cabbage, and then I just ate an entire plate of mac and cheese and oxtails. I just had basically 5,000 calories. So you're making her self-conscious by making different choices than her. A lot of women are actually very closed-minded, especially if they've only grown up in one city, in one town, in one state, one country, around one type of people. Everybody around them has the same mindset. When you start kind of branching out from that and having a different mindset about your health and your weight, they will make fun of you. Like, they will start to actually police you. Do you know how many people tried to police me when I used to be vegan? First of all, I failed at being vegan because I just didn't like it. I don't like restricting my diet that much. But when I was like being super healthy, I noticed that people started watching me. Like when I would go to a birthday party, they'd be like, oh, is that vegan? Or like, oh, does that have honey in it? They started asking all these questions and shit. And it's like they put the spotlight on you and they put a microscope on you, because in reality, they wish that they could make those types of choices. They wish that they could be healthy on the same level as you. Another thing that happens is some black women, they literally think you're going to fail. Okay, so they don't believe in you. They don't believe that you'll be able to lose the weight and keep it off. And so they're a monitoring spirit. They're waiting for you to fail. They're waiting for you to fuck up. They're waiting for your back to get big. They're waiting for you to look like a refrigerator again. They're waiting for you to gain the weight back. And so that's why they're basically spying on everything you're eating, or they'll try to count your calories. So you know how they have like pocket watchers and, people who try to count your pockets? These bitches will be counting your calories. They'll be like, oh, well, you only had 1,200 calories. Oh, well, you only had 800 calories. Bitch, if you could calculate calories that good for yourself, you would be a fucking supermodel. So it's like, you don't know how to calculate calories for yourself. You don't know how to pay attention to your own diet, but suddenly you can give a whole dissertation about the skinny girl and what she's eating. And then another strategy that they'll use to sabotage you is they will try to accuse you of having an eating disorder. I have heard this about so many skinny girls. If you're skinny, automatically, oh, she has an eating disorder. Oh, she's starving. Oh, her stomach is growling right now. She's still hungry. And it's like, why can't people just be at a healthy weight in peace? And then another thing that they'll try to do is they will try to make fun of your body shape. So if you don't have a Coke bottle or hourglass shape, let's say you have like a straight up and down, like a ruler shape or whatever, maybe you used to be a refrigerator and then you became a ruler, okay? Then you became kind of this athletic shape, and you're like very toned. Then they'll start trying to make fun of your actual body shape. So they can't make fun of your weight anymore. So now they try to make fun of your shape, or they try to make fun of your bone structure in your face or something like that. I've seen that happen a lot amongst women who are insecure about their face. They're insecure about the fat on their face. That's why they're making fun of your face for it looking too skinny. They're insecure about their body shape and all the roles that they have because they look like the abominable snowman. So that's why they're making fun of you for having like this athletic body type. Another reason that some black women will sabotage you is because they think you're going to get cocky. They think you will become arrogant. A lot of black women have an inferiority complex if they grew up in this monocultural space and they never got over their PTSD. So if a woman has PTSD and an inferiority complex, she's constantly looking around to see who thinks they're better than me. Has anyone noticed this? It's only the women with inferiority complexes who are so concerned with whether or not another woman thinks she looks better than me. So if you start losing weight, if your stomach starts looking good, let's say you had a baby or something, and then you bounce back, and then like she had a baby and she's like 300 pounds overweight, and then she still blames it on the baby like 20 years later. So let's say that you start losing weight, then suddenly she's thinking to herself, oh, does she think her body looks better than me? Does she think that she looks better than me in a bikini? Does she think that she looks cute in that sundress? Does she think she's better than me and looks cute in her jeans? And then they will start humbling you. They'll make those comments like you have no ass, or like you have no boobs, or you have no curves. Meanwhile, if you were to post on Instagram, let's say you post on Instagram with your no curves, and then she posts on Instagram at 500 pounds, who do you think would feel more insecure? I mean, I'm just being honest, just based on the way that our society is set up. Let's be honest, society is extremely fat phobic, okay? So I acknowledge that on this channel. I acknowledge that thin privilege exists. So if you are becoming thinner, you are becoming privileged because you don't have to deal with the trauma of fat phobia. So a lot of these women who talk about colorism, texturism, and featureism, it's actually not any of those things. It's really fat phobia. Because a lot of those women, when they mention colorism, they never have an example of the person mentioning their skin color. Usually it'll just be something like, oh, this person didn't want to date me, or like they didn't like my pictures on Instagram. Okay, is that colorism or is it simply fat phobia? Oh, the person at the makeup counter didn't want to help me, or, they didn't notice me. I'm invisible. Okay, all of those things are actually symptoms of fat phobia. A lot of fat women deal with the stereotype of being lazy because they are usually lazy in terms of their diet. They're lazy in terms of their workout. They're lazy in terms of their nutrition and meeting their nutritional goals. And so society does stereotype obese women as being more likely to be lazy. Okay, which one are you more likely to see as lazy? A fitness model who just ran 5 marathons, or a person who's 600 pounds? Our society does engage in stereotypes of people based on their weight. And so sometimes women actually get mad when they can't trauma bond with you anymore because you don't experience fat phobia anymore because you're at a normal weight, or you're average sized or whatever. So you're not this obese. You're not being described as, oh yeah, Kiki, the big girl. Oh yeah, Tay-Tay, the one that's 500 pounds. Oh yeah, Keisha, she's really big and thick. So you're not being described that way anymore. So you don't have that trauma. You don't have that identity anymore. Another reason that black women struggle to lose weight is because they actually have a hard time changing their internalized identity. Because they've been told from childhood by their own mother and father, they've been rejected and abandoned in some cases by their own family members. And so then when they finally do lose the weight, they don't see themselves as the skinny girl. They're still seeing themselves as the fat girl on the inside. And so this is why you see some black women where they have this yo-yo, they go fat, skinny, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. They're kind of going up and down all the time. It's because they never are able to solidify that identity of, hey, I'm skinny, this is who I am, this is my new lifestyle. Or they're making bad strategy decisions. They have a bad strategy in terms of fitness. They have a bad level up strategy in terms of their fitness and their body. So basically, a lot of them can be bad at leveling up. That's why they don't succeed at reaching the next level. I said what I said. Anyway, what do you ladies think? What are your theories on why a lot of women in the black community are overweight? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.